Okay, we're live now. Hi, everyone, and welcome to our Friday knowledge sharing sessions. Today, I'm presenting on DevOps topic, and let me start from sharing my screen. And let me enable full screen mode. Okay. Can you see my screen? It should be white slide with DevOps title.
Yep.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Cool. Great. So to be honest, it's not just DevOps in my thoughts. It's what I learned about DevOps from the Accelerate book. If you haven't heard about that book, it's a very good one. It has 3 parts. The first one is more about actual DevOps, how it affects the organization and how you can improve DevOps in your organization. It's very insightful, and this is the primary part that I will be talking about today. The second part of the book is some insight into process of collecting and analyzing data for state of DevOps reports, because the book is based on real data, on real statistics. It's not a collection of random facts. That second part, you're welcome to read if you're interested in some details, how to run such surveys and reports. Let's say if you have a very big organization and you want to run your own survey and figure out what will work for you best, that's something to start with. And finally, the third part of the book is the section for leaders and managers and how they should be involved in the DevOps processes in the organization to make the teams more performant and to make business more effective. So let's make a step back for a second, just to remind ourselves what is DevOps. So before I read that book, I thought that DevOps is something like sysadmin work done by developers, maybe writing scripts in different tools like Terraform, Makefiles, writing tests. I thought it's DevOps, configuring CI tools like Circle CI or Travis CI or something like this, GitHub, GitLab CI. And in general, to summarize, I thought that it's something less interesting for the client. It's not feature rich, and it's not interesting for business because it's more like routine, and business is not really involved in all these tasks. Like, let's say I have written a script to copy a file from a server to S3 bucket. I wouldn't demo it to the client. It's not interesting. It's not exciting. So I thought it's more like pure development stuff and pure development area. And it turned out that I was very wrong. And that mindset, that approach to DevOps is very limiting how you can improve your organization and your DevOps and everything in the organization. So then I decided, okay, I will go to Wikipedia and read the long definition of this short term. Let's read it together. So in Wikipedia, they say that DevOps is a set of software development practices, maybe something like writing some scripts, that combines software development and information technology operations to shorten the system's development life cycle while developing features, fixes, and updates frequently to shorten life cycle to develop features frequently in close alignment with business objectives. That's very long definition with one important suffix in the end that I was not aware about. So that's why some people started, like, it's not, I was not first that who noticed this misalignment. So people started to add these prefix to DevOps. And it's not a new thing at all. It's the same DevOps thing, the same idea. But now it has a reminder that it's not just writing some random scripts. It's all about your business strategy, your business, driving your business by shortening development life cycles to be able to deliver faster, to deliver more, to have happy customers, and so on. The next thing which you may think about is, all right, so people spend time figuring out what is DevOps. They even wrote a book about it. Probably they just have 5, 10 best tools, or maybe technologies, or maybe programming languages, which we can start using to configure best DevOps ever, and we can stop talking about it. But the research in the book and then those DevOps reports showed that it actually doesn't matter what kind of architecture you have. It may be microservices, it may be mainframe, it may be in any sector, banking sector, startup, fresh mobile applications sector, security sector, retail, charity, doesn't matter. As well as any technology can be used for successful DevOps. It can be any programming language, it can be JavaScript, PHP, Go, doesn't matter. So in this case, what is DevOps? And the book states that actually you should think about DevOps, and don't forget about this important prefix, this, should think about it as a mindset. And it means that you don't have, you can't buy DevOps in a store and plug it into your organization. It's more like what happens in your organization culture, what happens in the heads and minds of your staff, and how it affects your organization. And it all, I believe that, especially for developers who watch it or who are right now on the call, it all sounds very like abstract. Let's think of analogy with Scrum, for example. That's another idea which should be applied as mindset, but it has some practices that help organization to change mindset, let's say from waterfall model to more agile models of thinking. And you apply these practices on a day-to-day basis to slowly change a mindset of the whole organization. And it requires involvement of everyone, developers, designers, managers, and of course, leaders and managers. If you're not familiar with Scrum, I can give you another example, yoga. Again, yoga is not about how strong your body is and how long you can stay in certain asana or how long you can stay without breathing. It's philosophy, so it's about mindset. But to practice this and to go to this point of yoga philosophy, you have some practices and you need to apply them on daily basis. And at some point in half a year, you will feel that your mindset is slowly changing. So in this sense, these DevOps and Scrum and yoga are relatively similar. So enough philosophy. Let's move on. I don't recall what is my next slide. All right, cool. So, of course, I will not be able to change your mindset on this call. Maybe the book will help you if you read the book. I really recommend, but we can go the other way around. We can start applying some practices to slowly change how organization operates. to be able to improve DevOps, and as a result, to improve company profitability, team happiness, and overall success. The book identified 24 key capabilities, key areas to drive DevOps improvements, which is quite an impressive number, to be honest. If I would not read the book, I would be able to list maybe 5 or 10, but not 24. So now I'm going to walk through all of them with short comment, and I think as I go, you will feel that you have heard about all of these things, but you might not be aware that they are somehow connected to DevOps and to overall organization success. So let's get started from very obvious category, continuous delivery capabilities, and this is what is usually associated with DevOps. The first capability is more or less obvious, use version control. Important part is for all production artifacts, which means that you should be able to replicate production setup on any other machine, server, environment, which means that not only your application code, but also your configuration, server setup should be stored in version control. And this is the first step that you should take if you want to improve your DevOps culture. Next one, implement continuous integration. Again, I think it's the main buzzword around DevOps. It means that you should be able to have a list of automated tasks that run some tests to ensure that you don't break by a new code, you don't break the existing features, that runs some routine tasks like flush and cache and so on. I think it's more or less clear what it is, but it's just first 2 baby steps in the world of DevOps. Next one, automate your deployment process. I think many of us were involved in deployments with long checklists, what you need to do now and then, and at what time, and before business hours, and so on. This approach is not very good because obviously you can make a human error, and as well as that, it is very stressful, and manual deploys, as book says, manual deploys affect team happiness, burnout rates, and all that stuff. So automate your deployment process. Another interesting capability, use trunk-based development methods as an opposite to a GitHub flow, where you open pull request, you have a long-living feature branch, and then at some point you need to bring this feature branch up to date with maybe staging branch, and it all slows down development. Another approach is to have one primary branch, like master or trunk, and all development happens really quickly in one branch. I personally wasn't involved in this kind of setup, but I found a link that lists some pros and cons about this approach. Would be very interesting to consider. Implement test automation. And this is something that is never-ending exercise, because manual testing is an intellectual exercise. Users, your end users, obviously, and customers, they experiment with the platform. They find new bugs. They use platform in a way that you didn't expect them to use it. And every time you find something interesting and you fix the bug that was caused by some user behavior, you automate it, so you don't need to retest it multiple times. And because system systems often become complicated. There are different types of tests. You can test individual functions, you can test multiple systems together, you can do visual regression tests comparing screenshots of parts of the application, and so on. So that's a very important and great way to invest in DevOps that will affect mindset of the organization, because you will free up a good amount of time and mental time for building new features and experimenting instead of doing some routine work. Support test data management. This is something important as you grow, because you can't really rely on data, on production data. Let's say an editor creates an article, and in our test, we rely on that article when we test that blocks functionality is working fine. Once this article is deleted or changed, we need to rewrite that test, which isn't a good and reliable way to write tests. Instead, you need to have a data set for tests which you can rely on. Shift left on security. I will not spend a lot of time on that, but you are very welcome to watch a video from our previous Lightning talk. I've shared web app security tips and tricks from developer perspective. The main idea that is that security shouldn't be a separate checkbox at the very end of development process. It should be included on a regular basis into development, ideally automated. So if we found security issue, we'll automate checks in this area to make sure it never reappears again. Implement continuous delivery. And the difference between continuous delivery and automated deploys is that in continuous delivery world, your application is always deployable. It doesn't matter at what time, it doesn't matter how many times a day, it will not affect site performance, it will not break anything, it will be very easily revertible, and it doesn't matter really when to do it, in before office hours, at night, on Christmas, at any time. Next group of capabilities is architecture capabilities. As I said before, it's not really important what architecture pattern you choose to make it well testable, deployable, and so on. But the general advice that the authors of the book give is to prefer loosely coupled architecture. If you can build certain parts of the application independently, then you can deploy it independently, you can test them independently, and then you can, if you want, you can test them in combination, in integration, but you don't have to. And this is one of the key factors for scaling. Another interesting aspect is that architecture itself, this term is changing. In the past, it was like one guy at the beginning of the project, one guy spends a week and thinks about everything to build the structure, the basic architecture of the project. And then this exercise dictates how this project will live next, let's say, 5 years, and all limitations, all errors and mistakes that that guy did, because obviously he couldn't know everything 5 years ago about the project. All this will limit the teams to make changes to the architecture. So the new approach to architecture is that actually it's more about teams and giving teams and developers as many options to change system as possible, including allowing developers use new tools, new programming languages, and plugging them into existing architecture. This is very huge topic. Again, I included the link to a very good talk, the evolution of evolutionary architecture, if you're interested in this idea. You shouldn't be trying to fix something in the modern architecture. Instead, architects are people who should listen to development teams and figure out how to give them as much power as possible, because developers will be able to deliver amazing things which technology provides nowadays. Next section, a bit unexpected maybe for someone, product and process capabilities. And for developers who are involved or leading DevOps initiatives in companies, those few other things and few other capabilities, they may think that they are less important. But in fact, at certain point, the whole DevOps mindset will be blocked by some other limitations in the organization. So it's very important to work in collaboration and improve in other areas like product and process, culture, and so on. So let's start from the first one: gather and implement customer feedback. Wikipedia says that DevOps is about delivering features which are valuable for the business. If we not gather feedback, we will not be able to deliver features for business. Make the flow of work visible through the value stream. Again, connecting biz to DevOps. Developers should understand why they build certain features. It's not just that, all right, we need to install this plugin there. It should be easy to understand for everyone in the organization why this plugin is useful for end users or maybe for administrators in the system, and vice versa. Managers who see a task enable automated security check, they should be, for them, it should be very easy to understand why it is beneficial for the organization. So the flow of work visible through the value stream. Everyone understands that what they do is valuable. Work in small batches, I think it's self-explanatory. We need shorter feedback loops. We need more deploys, quicker rollbacks, and so on. So small batches is always a good idea. Foster and enable team experimentation, because this is where human beings are much better than computers and machines. People can occasionally sometimes develop amazing things while experimenting with different technologies, with different approaches. And in general, this is what developers do. This is our job. Lean management and monitoring capabilities. Another section, which is very important. The first one, the first capability that will drive the organization from DevOps perspective is have a lightweight change approval process. What does that mean? So in some organizations, people think that it's a good idea to have an advisory board for any code change that will review the change for multiple weeks, maybe, test it in different manually and in different departments, have some long reports how that feature was built, and so on and so on. And so it takes months to roll out that feature, and when it's done, it's already outdated. The research from the book shows that from DevOps performance perspective, these approval processes, they don't help to keep high quality. So people build this long check boxes, what should be done before we make a change, because they think that they will, in this case, they will avoid error. In fact, they won't. Anyway, some problem will occur, but they will be much slower in fixing it. So instead of slowing down everything, have a lightweight change approval process, and at the same time have a quick pipeline for fixing bugs. That's it. Monitor across application and infrastructure to inform business decisions. Again, that business word at the end of the sentence. What the authors of the book highlighted is that often in terms of technology, organization leaders are not in the loop what exactly happens. And if, let's say, someone asks a CEO how the company does in terms of technology, and at the same time they ask the same question to lead developer, the answers will be almost opposite. To bring back these two words, to align between them, business decisions should be based on real data, data from monitoring. That's why it's important to implement monitoring, but at the same time, make it readable for business. Not just random numbers, but also maybe few metrics, but that metrics that will make sense for the business. Check system help proactively. Again, self-explanatory. It's much better to have an alert before site is down rather than after site is down. Improve processes and manage work in progress. The book shows that if you have work in progress limits, your team performs better, because obviously you have an opportunity as a developer, have an opportunity to focus on one thing and deliver this one thing, rather than jumping from one problem to another. Visualize work to monitor quality and communicate through the team. Again, visualizing, it's more like pivotal tracker board or Kanban board, so that it's very easy to understand who is working on what. And it's important that you don't hide some work. If you have work related to features, you have those features in your dashboard. At the same time, you have DevOps tasks, you have tech debt tasks and security related tasks in one board. So it's very easy to understand that these types of tasks are also first level citizens in the projects, and they are very important to address and work on. Or was it the last one? Yeah. Final bit, cultural capabilities. Again, research on in this specific book, it was based on a Vestrum classification of organizational cultures, types of culture, and Vestrum defines pathologic, of bureaucratic, and generative culture. Making long story short, it means focused on mission. Nobody cares about some strange bureaucratic rules, and everyone is focused on mission and how to deliver value. It's healthy knowledge, focused on knowledge sharing, focused on learning, and so on. If you are interested in details, you're very welcome to watch yet another video from Coursera. They explain in detail what does it mean The good news is that if you don't feel like you're a great person who already found yourself in generative culture, it's not a big problem because culture is flexible. And slowly, as you practice more and more DevOps and agile recommendations, the culture of organization will improve with your efforts. Encourage and support learning. The problem for staff, for employees, for developers, is that DevOps it's our job. Once you solve the problem, the fix is automated in a package, let's say, and then there is automated check in CI, and you don't need to do the same work again. Instead, you are challenged to do some new work, completely new work, and that's why continuous learning is what is the only option we as human beings have in the DevOps world. Support and facilitate collaboration among teams. I don't have any comment on that, obviously. If someone on the team knows the solution, of course, it's the best to communicate that solution and foster knowledge sharing practices like the one we are at now in our knowledge sharing calls. Support or embody transformational leadership. And I also added a quote from the book. Generative culture starts with demonstrating new behaviors, not delegating them. So basically, leaders are in the same shoes as anyone else in an organization. They have to learn, they have to change their behaviors. Sometimes it's hard. They have to support the whole organization and find some new ways to solve the problems and so on. So for leaders, it's just the same journey as for anyone else. You can't delegate culture building to someone else. You can't buy it. And that was actually the last capability out of 24. And to wrap up, just a reminder that DevOps is not just about development, it's about your whole organization strategy. It's not a set of tools that you install and you are done. It's more like a mindset, how you approach your day-to-day work. And as we saw while reviewing all those capabilities, it affects pretty much everything in bi-directional way. You improve DevOps, your culture is improved. You improve culture, your DevOps is improved, and so on. The best way is to start practicing one of the capabilities from the list, which you find the most valuable, and start adding more and more and more. And in the end, you will figure out that you've got more performant teams, happier clients, and more effective business processes. I wanted to wrap it up by a quote from Elon Musk. People are mistaken when they think that technology just automatically improves. It does not automatically improve. It only improves if a lot of people work very hard to make it better, and actually it will, I think, by itself degrade. So good luck to everyone on this journey to improve technology, because it will not automatically improve without our hard work. And one more time, the book which I used to prepare this talk is Accelerate. I would recommend it to everyone, basically. That's it. Let me see your faces, because I'm not sure if you are even with me.
Very good, Kate.
Great. So let's, yeah.
Thanks, Kate.
Do you guys have any questions?
Yeah, so I think thanks for the talk, Kate. It was really interesting. I should probably read that book. It's on my long list of reading. My long list. Just that quote of Elon Musk at the end is very interesting because I read a book recently by Kevin Kelly called "What Technology Wants," and he actually takes the completely diametrically opposed view of Elon Musk. He talks about technology being an inevitability, a new domain of life alongside animals and fungi and stuff like that. That is, of course, spearheaded by humans, but it already has its own life and will continue to do so even without our involvement, simply because of its utility to us. It's a very interesting thesis, but obviously it has very tangential applications to this talk. So sorry for rambling. I do actually have a question. And that is a rather more practical one. How do we, systemc.com, apply some of these lessons to some of the things we already do and some of the things we already don't? Just, top 3.
Oh, yeah, sure. So first of all, you practice discipline. If you already have any of DevOps practices in place, you should stick to them and improve them. If you like, instead of working around something, you need to figure out what is the problem and make it faster, or make it more secure, or make it just automate if you can, like security checks. On the previous lightning talk, we were talking about tools for security automation that are available in the community, and I personally, it's in my list to check how we can do that. So first, practice discipline, use what we already have and improve it and understand it. Then figure out new areas where you can automate or optimize things, instead of just postponing it till the end of the backlog. Have it as a regular exercise. All right, we can improve it. Let's do that. Let's experiment with that.
Right. This is talking mostly about DevOps, though, and DevOps being the kind of critical cornerstone of all of these other things that would be things like, end goals like keeping the client happy, keeping a good pace of delivery and development. So it's how so just to, like, as a follow-on to this, how do you see this leading to this leading to these other goals, these other desirable outcomes? Because sometimes DevOps needs to happen outside of the remit of the client, for example. It's stuff that needs to be done internally and that does not have direct effect on the client, and vice versa too. Sometimes you have a DevOps that, even though it doesn't look like it affects the client, it will, and it should be prioritized by the client. So how do you see these things feeding to each other from what you've learned from the book?
All right. So the main thing is that non-functional work or non-functional features, it is also work, and it is wrong to think that if it doesn't have UI on the front end of website, it's something outside of the client interest. The same way as we do with Scrum, we have to involve the client and slowly foster mindset where it's very clear that even like all right, now we'll be sitting on 2 hours call to prepare backlog, but it's clear that we want to just launch the site. Let's not waste this 2 hours of our time and just jump into development. Now, after some time with working with the client towards agile methodologies, they will understand that it is very valuable because it's knowledge sharing, it's alignment with the team, it's brainstorming ideas together, and so on. The same happens with DevOps. Slowly, first step is to stop thinking and stop presenting to the clients the DevOps as pure techie task for techies only. No, it's for you guys. It's for your project to be able to release faster in a safe way, to be able to revert quickly, to be able to scale quickly if needed, right? Because let's say we want to release 5 features a day, and let's think about Google, how many deployments they do per day. I don't know. So that's for them, and this is how it was from the beginning. But our mindset was somehow locked in the box that if it doesn't have UI for the client, then it's something that we should hide. No, we should bring it to the table, as well as security and as well as other important stuff. That's what I'm planning to do, by the way, guys. So if no more questions, I think we can wrap it up.
I was going to ask a question about DevOps as a service, right? So many things have turned to a digital service-based, low cost to entry, scalable solutions where it's outsourced. It's also focused and examined and enhanced based on that focus. So you let other people specialize in things, and then you get DevOps as a service. Can you apply the same evolutionary architecture stuff that Rebecca Parsons talks about to DevOps? Can you not tie yourself into one DevOps practice, methodology, tool, everything that you're going to run as DevOps based on business needs? Can you break that down into an evolutionary DevOps practice where you can start to adopt more of those DevOps as a service type tools available as the market changes?
I think that's actually how it should work, but like in my personal career, I'm not that far yet, so I'm somewhere in the third part of the journey, and I don't feel comfortable like answering such deep questions, but I think this is how it should work. Yes, the one important note is that DevOps can be enabled and plugged in as a service. You can apply this idea of evolutionary DevOps to your own DevOps culture and strategy, but it should be your own. You can't buy it from another company. You can't ask the guy from company X to come to your company and apply evolutionary DevOps there, because it will not work. The DevOps setup of the company reflects the team. So it's very connected, to very connected things. Actually, the same as there is interesting thing. I don't recall how it is exactly called. I will share the link later, but there is a theory that system architectures reflect communication channels in teams who build those architectures, and vice versa. If you, as a lead, build the team in a way that efficient for your business, this team will build architecture that will be architecture in a way that will be the most efficient. So it's more like, again, one-on-one team and architecture. but it's obviously it's outside of scope of this talk.
Thanks, Kate.
Conway's law. It's called Conway's law. Let me share the link. Great. Thank you very much, guys.
Thanks, Kate.
Okay, thanks.
Cheers.
Cheers.